Joseph Rodriguez. His unique approach, blending entrepreneurship with intuitive living, has empowered countless individuals, including myself, to unlock their potential and live their ideal lives. Joseph is my personal mindset coach, and I've been working with him since my very first vision on the entrepreneurship journey. Without Joseph as one of my guides, I probably wouldn't be where we're at today. Today, Joseph will share insights that has transformed not only his life, but also the lives of millions worldwide. Today, we are diving deep into the subconscious mind. Please join me in welcoming to the stage, Joseph Rodriguez.
Thank you, Ruben, for this wonderful welcome. What a joy to be here. I believe I have met absolutely everyone except two people, so I'm going to introduce myself. Joseph, very good to meet you. Joseph, very good to meet you also. I wanted to have a conversation with everyone, and I got the opportunity yesterday to enjoy a number of presentations because one of the things Ruben asked me was if I could do a slideshow for our session today. And I said, I'm going to do it free-flowing, like Bedros did it. But then I had some ideas arise in my mind yesterday based on the wonderful conversations that were being had here, the presentations, the sessions that were being had. Mike and I had some wonderful conversations at the gym today. They were happening all over the place, and I was listening in, and I was tuning into it, and I said, okay, I do have some slides now. So yesterday I asked Ruben, I said, Ruben, can I throw these slides up, please? And he said, yes, graciously. So sometimes things happen like that, intuitively. As Ruben mentioned, my style of doing things is an intuitive approach. So my story quickly, before we get into this, is in 2004, I discovered a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Has anyone read that book? Wonderful book. And also later on, I discovered Outwitting the Devil. I know we have some Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill fans. Yes, certainly. So that book transformed my life because at that time I was in $50,000 debt. I was in corporate, and someone had slashed my tires at work. I was kind of a troublemaker growing up, so I don't know who it was, but that was a blessing in disguise. My two tires of my car got slashed in the parking lot, and I didn't have money to pay for 2 new tires or used tires. So I knew that my relationship with money was not harmonious, to say the least. And I remember watching this program in which the person recommended reading Think and Grow Rich. We'll sit down next. So he said, read Think and Grow Rich, because this book transformed my life, and it transformed thousands of entrepreneurs, now millions of entrepreneurs' lives. I recommend reading the book if you haven't read it. And if you have read it, I recommend reading it again and again and again, like I do, like Bob Proctor does. So what happened was I read this book and I discovered 3 chapters that I love every aspect of the book, but subconscious mind, auto-suggestion, and sixth sense. So if you would like to speed read the book or skim through the book, I would recommend starting with those 3 chapters. Subconscious mind, auto-suggestion, and sixth sense. That is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to infuse it into our conversation today in relation to the presentations yesterday, practically speaking, in relation to all the wonderful conversations that I had and will continue to have as we progress through the day. And also, as a surprise, Ruben's going to jump on, and we're going to free flow. Ruben's going to torque this over to questions. We're going to have a wonderful discussion. So that was a new idea that arose as well. So these 3 chapters taught me about something called the subconscious mind. Does everyone know what the subconscious mind is? Subconscious mind? Show of hands. Who knows what the subconscious mind is? Very good. So many of you are familiar with it, or you may know it under a different term. We have a conscious mind, and we have a subconscious mind. We're also going to go a step further, superconscious. This is where the inspirations, creative ideas, still small voice, intuition arises from. Okay? This is where the magic happens. Everyone here is a magician in my eyes. Does everyone know what I'm talking about? The still small voice, intuition, superconscious ideas that just flash upon your mind's eye that make, let's say, no logical sense, but when you implement them, take action on them, put them into your business, it works. Does everyone know what I'm talking about? By the way, as I go like this, am I capturing everything, or do I got to go like this?
Sounds amazing.
This is so much fun. See, part of listening to my intuition brought me here, because when Ruben said, hey, you want to speak with this event? I checked it. I said, yeah, that's where it's at. I'm going for it. That's how I built my IT business to success. So going back, I applied the principles in the book. We'll jump into this in a moment. I applied autosuggestion, subconscious mind, and sixth sense, which we're going to talk about. It changed my life. I got a $50,000 debt. I moved up in corporate, applying the principles in the book. I was in a fork in the road. Do I want to go into upper management? Or the hunch arose to start my IT business, which I left. I put in a 2 weeks resignation, left, started my IT business, built that to success from 2009 to 13. And then another fork in the road. Do I want to take it to the next level? We had a wonderful partnership in place with an amazing tech company that was ready to partner and take that business to the next level. But my heart wasn't there anymore. How many of you have been in that kind of fork in the road where, let's say you were about to go to the next level, but your heart just wasn't there anymore? But then you listened to your heart, and then you knew afterwards that that was the best decision. How many of you got that? Could be in relationships, could be in business, personal life. It could be anywhere. So I want to tap into that. That was super conscious. So what happened was I built my IT business to success. And then in 2013, I bought a one-way ticket to Austria to see what I wanted to do next, which is most likely going to be in consulting. And on the way to the airport, I had an insight to record my first YouTube video on my channel. If you go back to my YouTube channel, which is how Ruben and I met, through my YouTube channel, my first video is me talking about what's in my backpack on my one-way ticket to Europe. Might not make any logical sense. Why would you make a video like that? But then again, that's how intuition may work. It may or may not make logical sense. And Ruben and I have many stories of this, right? And by the way, who's checked out the video conversation we had on the channel? I recommend that maybe send the link out. Ruben and I had a wonderful conversation on my channel. So that was the first video on my channel. My channel grew to, right now we have about 443,000 subscribers. That consulting practice that I started grew to success, and in 2019 I chose to focus exclusively on my channel and initiatives, my mastermind, my programs, etc. And all of it was understanding this right here. So let's go into this now. So you have a conscious mind and you have a subconscious mind. You also have access to this superconscious mind. Let's start with this. Conscious mind is your thinking mind, your deciding mind. It is what you currently know of about yourself right now. If I ask you to describe yourself, you might say, I'm a coach, I have a wonderful business, I have these challenges, I live here. Maybe next week I might integrate what Mike said about putting that specific thing on my Instagram. That's all done with the conscious reasoning mind, which is helpful. That's the deciding mind. You choose with your conscious mind. Everyone has a conscious mind? So we're aware that we have a conscious mind. Now, what is, some say 95%, I say even more. Bigger than that is the subconscious mind. This is where your memories are stored, your beliefs are stored, your personality is stored, your vision that you've impressed upon your subconscious mind, which is everybody's on the journey to actualizing right now. It's there in the subconscious mind. Your identity, you were talking about parallel realities and the identity of who you imagine yourself to be now. I am that now. That is impressed upon the subconscious mind. You can do this via autosuggestion, which we're going to talk about in a moment. The key is we want to get this into the subconscious mind, because once it's in the subconscious mind, it's done. The conscious mind, you can control a few things here and there. You might think you have a lot of control, but most of it is happening via the subconscious mind. So a practical example would be, let's say you want to take action on something. There's a great idea. I want to take action. I want to do 5 prospecting calls a day, which is what I used to teach. I still teach this in entrepreneurship, but that's how I built my IT business to success, was commit to making 5 to 10 prospecting calls a day. That's it. But there may have been resistance. So, okay, I commit to 5 to 10 prospecting calls a day. I sit down, all right, about to send my emails, about to pick up the phone and call, send messages on Instagram. But then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, I want to grab a cup of coffee. Wait, hold on, I'm going to go grab a cup of coffee. Or I'm going to go for a walk. Ooh, the dog is walking around. Let me play with the dog. Or something like that. That is not you consciously. That's the subconscious mind. But the subconscious mind is not your enemy. The subconscious mind is bringing awareness to what you believe. You spoke about attention, where your attention goes, right?
Yes. Fight.
We'll explore it further.
Yes.
And Ruben is acting as the torque converter for me, so please chime in as applicable if this gets a little too esoteric. Because I like to get very esoteric. If you check out my channel, that's my style of doing things. But I also like to be very practical. And entrepreneurship is one of the best ways to apply this information that we're talking about here, which can get very esoteric and out there. But entrepreneurship is one of the best ways. Fitness as well. Fitness as well. Many ways of applying creative expression, any kind of artistic expression. You can, even in relationships, you can apply this. So, the subconscious mind is bringing awareness to a belief. Now, no shame and condemnation. You committed to do something, but yet you're not doing it. And no shame and condemnation. So this is one thing I teach. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. That's just a belief that's stored in your subconscious mind. You are one with the superconscious mind. Someone brought up perfection. You brought up perfection. Consider this for a moment. The fact that you exist means you are now, beyond condition, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, complete, whole, have everything, and need nothing. Does that make any sense? Does that make sense? Well, let's explore that. Because the individual might think, where is it? Where's the happiness? If Joseph says, I am happiness now, where's the happiness? I don't see it. I don't see it here. I don't see it in my bank account. If you get deep into this stuff, which we are happy to explore in upcoming videos and so forth, and torque convert this as well,
Yep.
You'll eventually come to the realization is that everything that you desired was a symbol of what you already have. So when you're speaking about parallel realities existing simultaneously now, that's another way of saying the same thing. All things exist now in the fact that you exist. We just think that we need to do something to get something before we can be happy. Now, I'm a fan of doing things that you love to do, having a wonderful lifestyle, wearing the clothes that you like to wear, the cars that you like to drive. I like driving nice cars as well. But one thing that I would like to propose today is that happiness is found with those experiences, not because of those experiences. Because if we say it's because of those experiences, if Bedros, for example, talks about how his car is stolen, he's not depending his happiness on the car, he just grabbed another car. It just manifests as abundance for him. Does everyone see that? Because he knows that he is fulfilled. I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. All those things are automatically added onto you, as it says in the Bible. Seek ye first the kingdom, and all these things are added onto you. The kingdom is the fact that you right now are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Now, I didn't get to this conclusion by just theorizing. This was an ongoing journey since 2004. I'd like to accelerate this for everyone. To realize that anything that I ever desired, I had, I accepted it, it's done, and then it appeared. And then it kept happening again and again and again. Money goals, certain amount of the bank account, certain amount saved and invested, relationship goals, whatever. It all ended up happening. It always happens. You always get it. You always get what you want. Yes?
All right, Joseph. So, you said that I can imagine it and then it's already there.
Yes.
But as a fitness coach, I've been on this journey, right? And you also helped me along in the journey. So the first thing that comes up is my limiting beliefs. I can imagine it, but shit, I can't get there. I don't know what the first step is to take. I have a hard time seeing myself there. I have a hard time seeing myself do all of these things and being that person. How do I get rid of my limiting beliefs, tap into my subconscious mind, and retrain it so I can do the work?
Very good. Perfect question. Perfect. Thank you. So, as mentioned, you are that. You might not know that yet, but when you remove those limiting beliefs like that, you'll realize you are that. And as you keep removing it, the mind gets purified. So how do we do it? So let's flip over to a number of slides. I like that we're going in a very freestyle sequence. So how do we flip over to the third slide? So I've got a number of modalities that I have, we're going to put up on my screen, that you can use to bring awareness to these beliefs and release identification to them. I say release identification to them because you are not your beliefs. Does everyone know what I mean? Okay. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Turn that into an auto-suggestion.
No. not everybody knows what their beliefs are. You are not your beliefs. What does that mean? Because I've seen some people shake their heads, yes, but they're faking it.
See? That's why I put him over there. Because I knew that he could see what I don't see. You can't hide it from me.
So, no, go ahead. It's good.
All right, great. So, remember how I said your subconscious mind is your friend? You know if you are about to identify with a belief, bring awareness to a belief based on your thinking, your behaviors, and your emotions. Your emotions reveal they're your friends. Emotions are not bad. Emotions are your friends. Thoughts are your friends. Behaviors are your friends. So I remember I brought up earlier, no shame and condemnation. If you're about to make that call, but you feel, let's say, an emotion of anxiety, that is bringing awareness to a belief. So if you work with a coach or you have a conversation with yourself and you get better at practice at doing this, you can, through asking yourself a series of questions, which we can do, bring awareness to that belief. The belief might be, if I make this call and get rejected, that means I am not good enough. That means me as a person is not good enough. Is that clear? Yes. So we have brought awareness to a belief. These beliefs can show up prior to conversations, during conversations, after conversations. I used to teach speed reading workshops back in the days, and I used to get full-blown anxiety. I mentioned this to a few prior to doing them, but there's none here because I released identification to a belief that was similar to that. People won't accept me for who I am. People will judge me. They'll say, who is this guy to talk about this kind of stuff? Those are just, where do they exist, those thoughts? Where do they exist? Yeah. They arise from beliefs. The thoughts are bringing awareness to the beliefs. Is that belief true? You dislike it?
If you want to give energy to it.
Exactly. We can say it's only true if you give energy to it. What I like to say is it's untrue, unreal, illusory. If you get into the Vedic philosophy, I recommend you get really deep into this stuff. It'll bring you to all kinds of interesting journeys like alchemy and Hermeticism, Kabbalah, the ancient Vedic scriptures, the origins of this information. You'll see that they call those beliefs illusory, not real, unreal, not God. God is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. End of story. That's reality. Everything else that is not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment is unreal. It's a very direct statement, but that's a good pointer. So that's how we bring awareness to a belief. Is that clear? And there may be different kinds of beliefs that may point to, this is the key, not love, not happiness, not peace, not bliss, not fulfillment. So that's a good guide. Write those down. I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. I am here to experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment as prosperity. Prosperity is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment in material form, in relationship form, as the outer expressions of God, as I like to say it. Anything that is not that is not real, is a limiting belief. Is that clear? Is that true? Am I making this up?
No. Why is tuning into that frequency of love, the God frequency, important? Or aiming towards it?
Because that's what the superconscious is. We brought up superconscious earlier. That's where God is. That's the reality of God. The Bible says, God said, let there be light. It actually, in another translation, the Aramaic translation, because I studied the Bible, I study spiritual texts. I go to town on this stuff since 2004. So all of this is based on actual spiritual text, practical experience, working with thousands of clients, etc. It says, and God said, the light shall be, and the light was. Delight was. Delight, delight of light, like desire of the Father. It means your true nature is pure consciousness, and pure consciousness is delightful. So if you're not experiencing delight, you're moving away from delight. So the reality of God is good, perfect, and pleasing. Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, which is what we're doing here. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Now, I'm not a religious person, but I am one that refers to the Bible a lot since I have a wonderful relationship with it. This is also true in the Quran. This is also true in the various scriptures of the world. They say the same thing. Is that clear? Okay, so let's talk about your question. Freestyle.
Almost how much? No, because it's about happiness. No.
Okay, I recommend everyone to have a personal relationship with God. So I'm not going to tell anyone what God is. I'm talking about my personal relationship with God and also reconciliation from scriptures. Great question. Wonderful question. By being still, by simply being still in meditation, we can go through that as a process. By releasing the thoughts and emotions, by being still, I heard a number of synchronistic words that you inspired from everyone. Peace was one of them. Happiness was one of them. By being still, you realize the true nature of God. Be still in the presence of God. You feel God. That's our relationship with God. I am. What's God's name in the Bible? Exodus 3:14. I am that I am. Where's I am? Can you say I am? I am within. God is within. God is within you. So God, you can say it's in the sky. It's just a way of describing, because you can say the light is everywhere. But the source of the light is within. So you arise from the source of the light. You're not separate from the light. You're not separate from God. So by being still, you realize that your true nature is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. That's how I came to the realization. By releasing those untrue beliefs, you experience spontaneous bliss, spontaneous happiness, with or without whatever you're doing. So Ruben said, Joseph, I don't want you to speak over here. I'll say, all right, I'm going to go check out the scene, and I'm going to have delight over there. No shame and condemnation, because I trust Ruben. You see that? Before being like, why did Ruben say that? He doesn't like me. You know what I mean? None of that, because I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Same with you. Client rejects you, you are still love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Why is this helpful practically? Because then you'll just make the next call. That's a practical example.
No, go.
All right. So let's talk about ways now. We talked about bringing awareness to these beliefs. We're good for time? Because I'll go on for like 8 hours. You know my videos are like 3 hours, 4 hours. Okay. Auto-suggestion. This is what I learned from Think and Grow Rich. Auto-suggestion. So auto-suggestion is a statement that you write down, such as I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, or I have a wonderful relationship with myself, or I have a lavish, steady, dependable income, consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. Any Neville Goddard friends out there? That's one of my favorite auto-suggestions. So if you say that to yourself enough, even if you don't believe it in the beginning, you'll start to believe it. That's how I got on $50,000 debt. I just kept reading my definite chief aim. I didn't question it. I was like, okay, he says to do it, I'm going to do it. And it works. That's auto-suggestion. Statements that you read to yourself in the morning when you wake up, prayers. Mark 11:24, pray as though you have received it and it shall be yours. It's literally talking about auto-suggestion in the Bible. Pray as though you have received it. So the key is, I am that. I am that way now. Even if you don't believe it, you'll eventually believe it. Is that true? Yes. Because you talked about it. You are that person in the vision now. Ruben can only see you that way. When Ruben and I started working together, that's what I did. You can say,
let's talk about that for a second. All right, so Joseph, one of the things that you did for me is you saw me as Michael. You saw me as the vision, right? I told you exactly what I wanted to accomplish, and you saw me as that, right? Eventually, I achieved that once I then saw myself as that as well.
yes,
right? And what you did as a coach is you held space for me so that I can grow into that of what you saw me as, until I saw myself as that. Sounds like a riddle, but it's the truth. It's cool. Right? Thank you. So when you're on the journey, right, and you don't have necessarily coaches to see you as that, you're kind of coaching yourself. You have all of these modalities you can use. Which one do you think, based off of our experience of working with each other, worked best for me?
Transmutation. Let's jump into that. Okay. By the way, round of applause for Ruben. He loves everyone so much that he so graciously accepted to do this. Isn't this valuable? This is a coach to inspire. Because I don't imagine you ideally. You imagine everyone ideally. Everyone here imagines their clients ideally. That's the way it is. And they become that. Because as you said, no matter what, no matter how Ruben showed up to the call, I never shamed, condemned, or said anything was wrong with you, right? Because there isn't anything wrong with you. What's wrong with you? Nothing. Now, you got to imagine him ideally. That's the key. Auto-suggestion. So, I didn't get to this point overnight. It was hard for me in the beginning. When I started consulting, I used to get irritated with my clients. Like, why didn't they just do the thing I told them to do? And it doesn't work that way. We got to show up lovingly. There can only be love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. There can only be God. You get what I'm saying? This is a fact of life. So, okay, auto-suggestions, you can do that. That helped clear it up so that I got to the point where I could facilitate like that. Each of you can do this. You and I are not any different. Anyone can do this. Let's talk about transmutation. Transmutation is taking the emotional energy that may arise, could be anger, and then converting it over to a different energy, like a service. Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich has one on sexual transmutation. You can take sexual energy and transmute it over to creative energy. Many of the greatest artists do this. You can do this with anger. You can do this with any way you label your emotions. Emotions are your friend. They're powerful, driving forces. You know, it's like when you're at the gym and you want to squeeze out one more rep. Obviously, Ruben has squeezed out one more rep way more times than me, but I still squeeze reps. But that moment, what do you think of when you're about to squeeze out that rep?
Nothing. I'm just trying to do it.
You mean you're not thinking about winning Mr. Olympia?
I'm thinking about winning this rep.
Winning a rep, there you go. It's his motivation. You see, I'm going to win this rep because maybe he's doing it for an intrinsic reason. Is there a reason why you're doing it intrinsically?
Intrinsic and extrinsic. Well, internally, I can push myself. Externally, I'm look better.
Yes, so he's driven by that. I want to look better. I want to push myself. He takes that energy where he's not wanting to, let's say, he thinks he's not wanting to put that one rep in. And then he transmutes that energy and he gets one rep out. It's like having a spotting partner, right? Or you box too. Like. So how do you relate to that?
Well, I relate to it in a number of ways, but the first thing that comes to my mind is anxious energy. How do I control anxious energy and harness it and direct it to focus?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. How many of you feel anxious energy?
Great question.
This is you're a master. Look. Again, you and I are no different. So as I shared this story, anyone can do this. When I first started doing this, presenting like this, prior to making YouTube videos, while I was building my IT business, I did an intuitive, non-linear move to start teaching speed reading workshops. Might not make any sense. Why would you teach speed reading workshops while you're building an IT business? Well, we can talk about marketing stuff, like it's a lead generation opportunity. I was teaching it to business owners, and they were giving me clients. So there's business reasons for it, we could say. But one of the reasons why I did it is I knew that if I could present and articulate better, become a better communicator, then I would succeed in business. And I had a lot of fear when it comes to public speaking. So leading up to his workshops on Saturday and Sunday, I used to get anxiety building up from Monday, and it would build up to the point Thursday and Friday was unbearable, let's say. And what I would do is I would use auto-suggestion because I would discover what the beliefs were that was generating the emotions, which are energy and motions. Emotions are energy and motions. When we label them subconsciously, we experience them differently. So if you experience it as anxiety, it's because subconsciously, in the subconscious mind, we labeled it to be that way. So we can change the label of that. So I started to release those beliefs of separation, I call them. That they don't accept me, they don't love me, who am I to talk about this, even though I have the experience and I used speed reading when I was in 2005. It helped me with my learning. So what happened was, as I applied auto-suggestion, the energy was still there. I wasn't suppressing the emotions. The energy was still there, but what was happening was I was getting more and more excitement. So as those beliefs were being released, excitement started to appear. You notice that? So the anxiety energy was not suppressed, repressed, but rather it was transmuted to propelling me to teach the workshops. And so sometimes I get so excited that I need someone to torque convert me on these. Because that's how much I love doing this. So this is a practical example. You have a question?
Well, actually, it ties into what you were talking about, the story of Goku. I starting to look for challenges that actually know they're going to make you bigger, better, and stronger.
Yes. So we covered autosuggestion, transmutation. Is that clear? And again, go to Think and Grow Rich, look it up online. If you have some resources, you pull this back up. Let's talk about environment. A lot of times in metaphysics, we talk about mental thinking and relating to states of consciousness, but I like to also factor in environment, because when you're in an environment where you feel encouraged, inspired, people see you lovingly, they imagine you ideally, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, prosperity, which is this environment here, you become more as I am, as I say, because what's God's name? I am. Be ye imitators of God as dear children. How do you imitate God? When God's name is I am, and it says in the Bible, be ye imitators of God. Be as you are. So you're in this environment, and everyone's encouraging you to be who you are. No one's telling you to be someone that you're not, right?
Yeah. And how do I become more of myself? Is by what? Anybody. Be authentic, but also being still.
Yes. Be still. So let's get into that. So environment helps. We're clear on that. We're applying it right now. Choose ideal environments.
I want to talk about environment very briefly. Because
Sure.
environment is extremely important for growth. You cannot be in the wrong environment and expect to sprout to the moon.
Unless you want to do some transmutation chaos magic.
And that's okay too, because you can put yourself in an environment of chaos to grow with purpose.
Which is what I do as well and recommend it highly.
And what you all did besides running Fitballs.
Yes.
Right? You intentionally put yourself in a position of chaos to grow. Okay.
So an ideal ratio of that, a good ratio, allow your nervous system to regulate and rejuvenate and all these things too. A good ratio of controlled chaos, which I call that controlled chaos, and a good ratio of inspiring, cultivating you, enhancing your flow. Discover your ideal ratio. That's clear? Thank you. Environment. Now be still. Be still is what I call the absolute realization. You could say, it would actually get rid of all these practices. But what I found on my journey was it was a combination of all these practices. But be still is essentially what meditation points to. It is what you may hear some of the Vedic sages point to. Just be still. You go to them with a challenge, be still. And you're like, what does that mean? So we can right now go through a practice. We can acknowledge that right now we are witnessing this environment. I am aware of this environment. You are aware of this environment. You may have thoughts in relation to me. Who's this guy talking? Why is he talking so much? You may have thoughts about your vision. You may have thoughts about what you can integrate. I am aware of what I think. You are aware of what you think. So you're aware of this environment. You're aware of the wonderful energy of this environment. You are aware of your thoughts. And as you are aware of these, the awareness that is aware of this is you. So you are beyond your thought. You are beyond this environment. You are also aware of your body. Everyone here has a wonderful body. We may be deeply identified with it, especially when we're at the beach or something like that. But we have a body. The body doesn't define you. You define the body. You may think, I'm happy because I'm fit. Actually, you could be happy without being fit. We recommend having a wonderful body, doing both. This is an integrated approach, yet for the practice of being still. We acknowledge that I am aware of my body. I am aware of my mind, which contains the thoughts. I'm aware of my beliefs. I'm aware of the sensations of the body. Who is that is aware? You. That you is still. That you has always been still. That you has never changed. Everyone following me with this? That you is always still. That you is, in the Bible, referred to I I and the Father are one, yet the Father is greater than I because the Father gives us everything. Prosperity is given to us by grace, by simply accepting I have it through autosuggestion. So the practice of being still, that's a form of self-inquiry. It's called self-inquiry. I recommend the works of Ramana Maharshi. You can also, through meditation, Vipassana style, or other meditative practices, bring yourself back to that stillness. And then we find that emotions are released. Untrue thoughts, illusory thoughts, as I've been calling them, are released. Even the illusory beliefs get released. Mind purification happens. Those subconscious beliefs get released if you're being still. Now you can practice being still here. You can practice being still when you're in an environment where it's easier to be still. You can also practice being still in a chaotic environment. And that's how we get high levels of mastery.
I do recommend practicing that.
Can you share how you practice that?
Yeah. Uber rides, chaotic environments where everything is happening around me, that's the time to practice being still. It's a time to go inside. You don't even have to, actually, when you really get this stuff good, you don't even have to close your eyes to be able to do it. But I practice it when I'm in Uber rides. I practice it when I'm at home chilling, when I just need to reconnect to the work. I can practice it at any time. And just when you were doing this example, what happened with me is I was practicing that just then. I went deeper, got more focused. When you brought the attention to the awareness of the body, awareness of the room, awareness of the breath, you get deeper into it. You sink into it. You're getting closer to stillness. Here is where you make clear decisions.
Does anyone feel that?
Can you feel Ruben's stillness? Isn't that contagious? We automatically become still. That's why I included this in there. Included all this for your benefit. While you're coaching clients, by being still, they transform. They come up with ideas on their own. They know what to do all of a sudden. They're like, you know what? I'm just going to go to the gym. I'm done making these excuses. Stuff like that happens. They come up with it on their own. That's why when you're being still, you automatically imagine them loving you. Because you're being still in the presence of God. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Nothing to be said. That's why some of the greatest sages, and a lot of my consulting is like that. I just sit there, being still. It's actually very easy to coach and consult that way. Sometimes you talk, sometimes you don't. But you will find that you'll never get tired of coaching. You'll never get tired of making videos. You'll never get tired of Uber rides. And a great way to exemplify what you mentioned is, let's just say there was a lot of traffic. Now there's a belief that may arise through the emotions. I'm going to be late. What does that mean if you're going to be late? It means the person is going to think that I'm always late. Well, what if I accept myself the way I am, and then when I get there, if I'm late, we'll have a conversation about it, and it'll work out harmonious. Okay, that's good self-talk. So what can I do here? Be still. And mind gets purified from that untrue belief. Because maybe you do it once, maybe you do it a bunch of times, you'll find you'll no longer have that thought anymore. And you'll also find magically you'll show up on time. This is very fascinating about it. Because sometimes what happens is the subconscious beliefs play out as theater to reveal what has been identified with. So the subconscious mind is our friend. See that? So we talked about autosuggestion. We actually also touched in on self-talk. Let's do self-talk and revision. Very good. Perfect. Self-talk is talking to yourself in a way where you move from thinking about to thinking from. So an example would be, there's a lot of traffic here as I'm riding this Uber. I may be late, but that's okay because I accept myself the way I am. See that? When I get to the destination, they will have a conversation with me. I'll enjoy a wonderful conversation with them, and it'll turn out better than I expect. Thinking of to thinking from the end. I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. That's self-talk. Revision is powerful for changing your relationship to the past. A great example, after this event tonight, if there was any limiting beliefs or thoughts in relation to yourself, environment, people, you can go to bed at night and say, that was a wonderful event. I had so many realizations. I had such wonderful conversations. It was a great event. I can see myself doing one of these. That's it. Go to sleep. You revise any inharmonious relationship all throughout the day. Revision is sometimes referred to as repentance. It's no longer that way. It's this way now. No longer identified with that past. This is very helpful. Can be facilitated very well with clients who have experienced trauma. Bedros has shared, I've also experienced trauma, horrible things as a child that would not wish upon anyone. Revision helped. All right? So we're clear on that. One more thing I want to show. Go back to the beginning. All right. As you do this work that we just mentioned, which I see it as fun, you get to do it. If you see it that way, it's a meta belief as well. So that way you don't run away from beliefs. You're not afraid of beliefs because beliefs are your friends. They're revealing to you. Illusions only appear to disappear. Write that down. Illusions only appear to disappear. What remains is God, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Illusions, thank you, illusion, for bringing me to God. Everything brings you to delight. You see that? You can turn that into an auto-suggestion. What happens then is you access superconscious. Because there's no longer these restrictive beliefs that you're operating from. Playing out recurring patterns. Recurring patterns of illusions. Illusions. Suffering the same thing over and over again. No shame and condemnation. I still practice this. I always practice this. And I've been practicing in 2004. You access superconscious. Hunches, inspirations, everything flows. Ideally, automatically, in harmony with your vision in a mutually beneficial way, with increasing frequency on a continuous basis as far as the senses perceive until it's heaven on earth, wherever you are. That's what we're doing here. We're building heaven on earth. So thank you for doing it.
Joseph, thank you so much for that. That was so awesome. We are now going to go into a Q&A for Joseph. Jeremy has his hand up first. Go for it.
How do you intentionally decide that you could do this? Like, we hear all the, oh yeah, I can do it. How do you intentionally decide? Like, we all have that brick wall we feel like when we about right here around the stern area.
Yes.
Like, we can all feel it. And like, you know you can do it, but it's just like, how do you just, I quit and just move past it?
I feel you.
Like with confidence, not like just, just move past it. Like, hey,
Yes.
I can do this.
I feel you. Sometimes these beliefs are deeply rooted and they can feel like they have a lot of power over us, and there's no shame and condemnation about that. So I recommend chunking it down into small steps. So the way I used to do it with the public speaking, for example, is I'm just going to get dressed. Or prospecting calls, here's a good one. I'm just going to open up my laptop, chunk it down. Then I'm going to send the first email. And then you're in the flow. So it's like a combination of self-talk plus emotional release. And by the way, I didn't mention this. Those can be done one by themselves or in combination. You've actually seen, as we went through some examples, I did it with combination, self-talk, be still, emotional release, because when you're being still, the emotions get released. So emotional release is simply allowing the emotions to be released, feeling them through. So that's one thing I'll also say about that, is if you feel that strong emotions, there's nothing wrong with you. We may have taught ourselves that feeling emotions is bad, and that actually holds ourselves back because we're just repressing the emotions, suppressing. So allow those emotions to be released. Just sit there with no thought. Feel the emotion being released. It'll get easier with practice. When I first started doing this, again, I taught myself, I don't blame anyone. I take full responsibility. No one taught me this because I can only imagine what people think. So I taught myself that emotions was bad. And I would suppress them in the earlier stages. It's bad, Joseph, for having emotions. Nothing wrong with you. Release, and then you'll find it's easier to take that first step. And you do that again and again and again, and that's it. The belief is no longer there. It was never there. Because I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Therefore you are.
Love, happiness.
Delight, yes, delight. Sum it all up. Great summary. I love it. Delight.
One transmutation.
Yes.
The law of transmutation. So it's pretty much energy moves, energy changes.
Yes.
And I want to talk to you about, or ask you, how do you let your soul define your body, rather than your body define your soul?
Your soul is one with the Father, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. We can think that the body defines the soul. We're just thinking that. It's illusory. So the practice is acknowledging that, what I just mentioned, that, wait, I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. I have been created in the perfect image of the Creator. God sees me only lovingly, happy, peace, bliss, fulfillment, desires for me to experience that and create heaven on earth with everyone, to the wonderful service. So if I think this way about my body, it is an untrue belief. As I accept myself, and this is the wonderful thing too, as I started to accept myself, I noticed I started to become more consistent in my workouts. Prior to that, why it would play out in a way that was inharmonious, because I was identified with the belief that I was not good enough. So what happened was I would sabotage it, let's say, by not going to the gym and then shaming myself afterwards. You never do it, Joseph. Like, you always say you're going to do it, you never do it. You are perfect now, I am perfect now. And then from that premise, it starts to unfold. To facilitate that faster, I recommend autosuggestions. That's why I put autosuggestions. That's why I mentioned earlier that autosuggestions was transformative for me. Or, by the way, these are the modalities that I work with. You can create your own. Working out is a modality, would you agree?
Yeah.
Anything can be a modality. Boxing is a modality.
One more, and then we have to go to Q&A in the VIP.
Mike, you've given so much. Thank you. Gladly.
In the modality of be still,
Yes.
I know what I go to as far as the feeling in which I am at the most still. What is your one word or emotion or feeling that you have when you arrive at still?
Delight. Why do I say delight? Because these are all pointers. Pointers. Words are pointers, but we do experience it. So I label it, and I say it for my channel because the audience relates to it differently. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. So some people say there's only love. Love is real. Some people say, like Ramana Maharshi, happiness is your true nature. So whatever word we use points to that, in which we can then see that relatability to a word. We say, oh, I know what he's talking about. You got it?
Let me add one more thing to that.
Yes.
When I arrive at the place, it's more of a feeling of being in flow. Not necessarily, not necessarily a feeling of bliss and happiness, because it's already happened.
Yes.
But in the moment, it's being in flow, and you can have whatever feeling you're feeling when you're in flow. Because
Great point.
With the thing.
Great point. Let's go into that. This is a great nuance point. One more. Okay, very briefly. When I say I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, it may be ecstatic. It's not necessarily referring to it, because one person can be happy sitting there. The other person can be happy jumping up and down. It's the things that we look for we already have is what I mean. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, our existence itself is. And so what happens is, I'm a fan of this too, we talked about it in our video, flow state. While you're in flow, it can be experienced in peak states of flow. Like, this is a very peak state of flow for me. But then there's also a flow walking in nature. There's also a flow, like how you mentioned, different kinds of flow. They're still pointing to flow is experiential from the premise of truth. I relax into knowing that I am, and I appear flowingly from the premise of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. So when we describe it emotionally as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, it can be experienced as ecstatic or high emotions, let's say, but I don't say it to form an identification around those words and that meaning. It's more how you're describing. That's what I mean by it. And why I use those words particularly is because that's what we're seeking for. Is that fair to say? We already have what we're seeking for. When we realize we already have it, we flow. Like, you're flowing right now. This has been a flow-based event. Everything works out perfectly, harmoniously. Ruben's first event. And it's perfect. Would you agree? Yes. Because you're in flow. Flow master.
And we are going to go right into the other room. All right. Thank you so much, Joseph, for that. The VIP guests, can you please make your way into the station over to my left? We're going to have an exclusive Q&A with Coach Joseph.